Hey yo, this is how you make the NBA Cup mean something. This is your boy Vic, and this is Vic Plays Games. Today's episode of Vic Plays Games is brought to you by me, Vic. Why? Because I ain't got no sponsor yet. But just remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we can get these numbers up. Alright, let's go. So, Richard Jefferson was used as a pawn by the NBA to announce the NBA Cup, which is going to be a 30-team tournament involving all the teams in the NBA, divided into 6 different groups. So 5 teams per group. Each team plays against each other once. 2 road games, 2 home games. Winners of each group and 2 wildcard teams make it to an 8-team knockout stage. During this 8-team knockout stage, the winner will be crowned in Las Vegas on December 9th, with the winner of the final game being named NBA Cup champions. The issue with the NBA Cup is that it has no inherent value, and I will explain why. With the NBA Cup, all the winners get are $500,000 apiece, which is a lot of money for all of us regular folks. That's life-changing money for most people, and it's probably life-changing money for the players who are at the end of the bench, right? Probably players 9 through 12 on the team. However, for the majority of the players on that team, that's a drop in the bucket. Also, on top of that, outside of the monetary compensation, there is no reward for the team, right? The teams aren't guaranteed a playoff spot. If they win the NBA Cup, they're not guaranteed a certain, number in the draft lottery if they win the NBA Cup. So you're just giving them a bunch of money. Like, that's not going to improve the quality of the game. I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to use this tournament as a way to force teams to play their players. However, the issue that the NBA has is that they play the tournament in early November and early December. That's the beginning of the regular season. So because that's the beginning of the regular season, that's usually when teams are discovering their chemistry and, trying to see how they play with each other. It makes more sense to have that tournament probably after the All-Star break from February to March. But to have it in the beginning of the season is completely pointless in my opinion, because the quality of basketball in the beginning of the NBA season is not up to par to what it is when you get into January and February when teams finally get their chemistry together, right? So seeing all of this and seeing how the NBA Cup honestly just looks like a cash grab, and it seems like something that the fans won't care about. They presented a trophy, the players were in the background during Summer League. The players probably aren't going to care about this because it's not the real NBA title, right? The only way to make the NBA Cup mean something is for the NBA to finally go all the way in and fully internationalize the game. What do I mean by that? You look at the NBA, the past 5 seasons, all of the MVPs have been international players. 2 have been won by Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2 have been won by Nikola Jokic, 1 has been won by Joel Embiid, right? The NBA has done a lot to internationalize the game with the development of NBA basketball, the Basketball African League, TV contracts with China, relations with other leagues around the world for high draft prospects, such as, the French League with Victor Wembanyama. The NBA has done a lot to internationalize their league. The issue is that they haven't gone all the way in. Honestly, I'm just going to be very frank here. I feel that the NBA for the past 2 decades has purposefully been neglecting the American market, right? They've been neglecting the American market. They've been focusing on international TV contracts to the point that the NBA just feels like they can even bully people like, Turner Sports into trying to get bigger TV contracts, even though the NBA has been having a downside in ratings over the past decade, right? So the ratings for the NBA over the past decade have been going down consistently, but the NBA is asking for more TV money. Doesn't make sense. Eventually, you're going to have these providers look at the NBA and say, listen, bro, we're not getting the return on investment that we deserve. How can we be getting less revenue from ads and you're asking us for more money to play your games? Doesn't make sense, right? So what I see happening in the future and what the NBA should do with the NBA Cup, you need to make that thing mean something. I see what the NBA is trying to do. They're trying to mimic and emulate European football, but they're doing it all wrong. The reason why mid-season cups like the FA Cup or the Copa del Rey work in Europe is due to the fact that, one, in Europe, all of those countries have multiple leagues that can play with each other due to the promotion relegation system. So in England, for example, you have the Premier League that's on top. Below the Premier League, you have the Championship. Below the Championship, you have League One. Below League One, you have League Two, and etc. Right? You don't have that with the NBA. In the NBA, you have the NBA, and then I guess you can technically count the G League, and the NBA teams don't play against the G League teams, and there's no promotion and relegation within the United States sports systems. So, the incentive of winning that cup that they have in England, because whoever wins those cups in the FA Cup or the League Cup, they qualify for the Europa League, which is international European competition. You don't have that in the United States, right? You win this NBA Cup and then what? You just have a meaningless trophy, right? There's no incentive for the players to really play hard for it, outside of maybe the bench players who are going to be playing for, you know what I'm saying, like the extra $500K a piece. But then for the star players, they're not going to care about this. They're not going to make a full effort to really play their hardest for this cup. So what do you do? How do you make these players care? The NBA needs to collaborate with FIBA and create a world championship. For years, the NBA champion in American media has been declared the quote-unquote de facto world champions of basketball. Why? Because most people would agree that the NBA is the best basketball league in the world. You look at leagues like, La Liga in Spain. You look at the Turkish basketball league, which is a high-quality basketball league. You look at the growth of the Australian basketball league. You look at the CBA. You look at all these leagues around the world. Of course, you also think about the Euro League. You look at all of these leagues across the world and the increase in the quality of play. It doesn't make any sense for you guys to not have a true world championship. This is how you make the NBA Cup mean something, all right? You take the NBA champion. You allow them to automatically qualify for this world championship. The team with the best regular season record, allow them to qualify for this world championship. And lastly, the NBA Cup winner, you allow them to qualify for this world championship. Like how in Europe, for people who qualify for the Champions League, for example, let's look at the Premier League. If you want teams to qualify for the Champions League, you have to be a winner of your national league in Europe and or in the major leagues such as the La Liga in Spain, the Premier League in Great Britain, the Bundesliga in Germany. Be a top 2 or top 4 finishing team, you automatically qualify for the Champions League. If you win a cup, they automatically qualify for the Europa League. Look at the NBA. And you see just like how much star power is in the NBA and how a lot of the teams have international players. This can create a very interesting business perspective, right? So the NBA is basically doing it all wrong. If you actually want the NBA Cup to mean something, I think one, involve all of the G League teams and have them also involved in this competition. Then on top of that, you look in Europe, take some of the best teams out of the leagues in Europe. So let's take the La Liga champions, usually it's Real Madrid or Barcelona. Take the La Liga champions, allow them to automatically qualify for this world title. Take the Turkish League champions, allow them to qualify for this world title. Take the Euro League champions, whoever wins the championship of Europe, allow them to qualify for this title. Take the champions of the CBA, allow them to qualify for this title. Take the champions of the Australian League, allow them to qualify for this world title. So now you have 8 teams, right? You have 8 teams and you're representing a good portion of the world. The NBA has still been working to develop the African basketball leagues. So allow the winners of the Basketball African League to join this world championship in years to come. In years to come, you can add the winners of the Basketball African League. You can also add the winners of the French League, the winners of the German League is also a very popular league, the winners of the Italian League, etc. You know what I mean? Add teams to make this a big world tournament field. Allow these games to be played in early July to crown a real world champion. That's the only way the NBA Cup can mean something. Because let's say you're an NBA Cup winner, you win the cup, you don't win the trophy for having the best regular season record, you don't win the NBA title for being, the best team in the league traditionally, right? You still have a chance to win a world championship. Here's the only caveat with this, right? The only caveat with this, if you're like an American, business owner, or you're just like an American patriot in general, is that it makes the domestic championships a lesser accomplishment, right? It makes the NBA title mean less. Let's just call it what it is. If the NBA title is no longer declared the de facto world champion, people aren't going to look at it with the same level of prestige, right? However, it also allows these NBA owners to have a chance of making higher income, higher net income, higher profits, right? Because think about the TV deals you can do. A world championship, imagine like all the people in China cheering on the CBA teams watching these games, right? Imagine Australia, New Zealand, all the people that would watch that to see if the Australian league does well. Think of all the people in like Spain, Italy that would watch to see their teams play. You know what I mean? You can make this like an international tournament, something akin to FIFA had the Confederations Cup for national teams years ago, or the Club World Cup that FIFA has been expanding, right? FIFA gets it, right? The NBA, if you are going to mimic European football, you have to do it right. You have to go all the way in. If you do not want to go the route of promotion relegation with the NBA and the G League, like all these other leagues around the world do, because it makes the owners, investments less stable, fine. But there's a way to get around that while having a quality product, while also making people care, right? Because now, let's say for the World Championship, instead of a $500,000 per player prize, you make it an extra $5 million per player prize, right? And now, if you're an NBA player, NBA players want to say they're better than everybody else. You can now go out there and prove it without a shadow of a doubt. If you prove that you are now the best team in the world, there is a stamp of honor on that, right? So it makes the NBA Cup more significant because now with that cup, you have a chance to win a world title against the best teams in the world to shut up all the doubters, right? If you win the NBA regular season, you're rewarded for actually playing well and not load managing. If you win the NBA championship, you of course are rewarded because you went through the gauntlet in the toughest league in the world against elite competition for 2 months in a row. All of this brought together will make the NBA as a league more profitable. Very similar to like what we saw early 2000s when banks like Barclays, put a bunch of money into like leagues like the Premier League, and European football exploded to a level that we haven't seen before, right? And even with people thinking like the NBA champions would be the de facto favorites to just win this world title, we've seen upsets before. In previous years, when FIFA, for example, had the Intercontinental Cup, South American teams actually won the Intercontinental Cup more than the European teams. You look at when the FIFA Club World Cup first started, once again, the South American teams, usually who were Brazilian teams, were beating the European champions like Liverpool. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that these things can develop into something where we see like shocking upsets, which could be good for like the game of basketball as a whole. It'll be good for the pockets of everybody. It'll be good for the fans because we see good quality basketball. You're going to have dudes basically fighting for their countries, right? You have, of course, a lot of NBA teams have a lot of international players, but you look at teams like in the Spanish league, like La Liga. You look at teams in like the Turkish league. Think about teams like Fenerbahce or Besiktas, right? Think about teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona. You look at these teams, right? They have strong histories in not only European football, but basketball as well in those regions of the world. So you give them a chance to say, we're better than these Americans, they're going to give you their best game. Likewise, these American players who are on these NBA teams, who a lot of people view as pampered right now, if they see that these Europeans are coming for their neck like that, they're going to come up, they're going to turn up, they're going to play as hard as they possibly can to prove, nah, we better than y'all. Y'all need to sit down there and shut up. You feel me? That's how it needs to be. So, this is my plan to make the NBA Cup mean something. NBA, collaborate with FIBA. Make a world championship. When you collaborate with FIBA, let it be played under FIBA rules. That's cool. You have the NBA champions, have the NBA Cup winners, have the team with the best regular season record qualify for this tournament, and have them go against the 5 other international teams I just brought up. The Chinese Basketball Association champions, the EuroLeague champions, the La Liga champions in Spain, the Turkish basketball champions, and the Australian League champions. Let them all go against each other. Let it be 8 teams, 4 teams in one bracket, 4 teams in another bracket, group play, top 2 teams in each group qualify for the semis, knockout stages in the semis. Then you have a knockout stage for the finals, winner takes all. You will have so much money, because at the end of the day, man, I don't care what any of these guys say, this is about money, right? This is why they think they can just throw $500K at each of these players and it'll make them want to play more. No, if y'all really want to make the big money, make this decision, man. Come on. people would watch this, right? And also, it will give NBA fans the ability to see other international players. It'll give international players the ability to showcase their talents to NBA scouts. NBA scouts can now see, all right, how do these international players play against NBA talent before just gambling on these dudes and seeing if they're actually decent or not, right? Because a lot of the times we've seen players who come internationally into the NBA and they just can't do it. So the NBA, y'all just need to make this the real move, right? Make a world championship, make the NBA Cup mean something. If you're not going to have promotion relegation, and if the other leagues in America, like the Canadian Basketball League or the leagues that they have in Mexico or in Argentina, if they don't come up to par so you can have an American championship, the NBA Cup is useless, bro. You need to make the NBA Cup mean something by putting it in international competition. I think if you do that, the quality of the NBA play will also increase. People have been complaining about how NBA players have been playing for about the past decade or so, right? People think the league is too soft. You put in these incentives like, okay, listen, if you guys don't act right, these guys over here in these foreign countries are going to take your spots as the best leagues in the world. That's going to motivate players. That's going to make players think differently about how they play. That's going to motivate players about how they, showcase themselves on the world stage. You feel me? I don't know. What do you guys think? Am I just blowing hot air? Is this a stupid idea? Let me know in the comments, man. Hey, this is your boy Vic, and this is Vic Plays Games.